Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. So today is August 14th, 2022, and our topic today is, what are your belief filters? What are your belief filters? We believe it is done to you according to your belief. So we have to examine those beliefs. And this prayer that I'm going to read and reading by Ernest Holmes talks about that. He also refers to it as consciousness, because consciousness is the sum total of our beliefs and expectations and feelings and our connection with God. So I will read that now. It says, "My word accomplishes. You're either attracting or repelling according to your mental attitudes. You are either identifying yourself with lack or with abundance, with love and friendship or with indifference. You cannot keep from attracting into your experience that which corresponds to the sum total of your states of consciousness. This law, this law of attraction and repulsion works automatically. It is like the law of reflection. The reflection corresponds to the image before a mirror. Life is a mirror, peopled with the forms of your own acceptance. How careful then you should be to guard your thoughts, not only seeing to it that you keep them from doubt and fear, accepting only the good, but equally you should consciously repel every thought that denies that good. Say to yourself, I know that my word penetrates any unbelief in my mind, casts out fear, removes doubt, clears away obstacles, permitting that which is enduring, perfect, and true to be realized. I have complete faith and acceptance that all the statements I make will be carried out as I have believed. I do everything with a sense of reliance upon the law of good. Therefore, I know that my word shall not return unto me void. I accept this word and rejoice in it. I expect complete and perfect results from it. And so it is.
That's good. That's a good
Yeah,
statement.
it's very powerful, isn't it?
I'm going to start with sort of a definition, or at least working on the definition and
The word filter.
filter and how it works in relationship to the brain. We have a brain, which is one thing, and I really believe we have a mind, which is another thing.
Mhm.
And the brain's one of the brain's primary functions is to sort information to determine levels of safety. It tries to sort and organize. And it's forever organizing, trying to figure out, is this safe? Is that safe? Is not safe? And that's a very primal part of our nature. It's our brain nature. What that also means is that it's very easy for us to be critical of every situation and to look for danger in every situation and to look actually for the worst in every situation. And as a primitive creature on the planet before we had everything from cell phones to HBO, we needed to have our eyes and our brain tuned into, is it safe? So one of the problems we run into in consciousness, or it's not a problem of consciousness, it's a problem that our brain delivers to consciousness, is that in order to be conscious, we really need to turn those filters off a bit, or some, or at least know that they're there before we can see the world. We don't see the world as it is. We see the world through the beliefs that we have. We see the world through the
filters
that we have in place. One of the most glaring or interesting presentations recently is the new telescope that's up. And the telescope, that's the new telescope that they've just launched actually they launched it months ago. They're now getting the first pictures from it. What's different about it, it doesn't see things the way the other telescopes have seen. It sees things in infrared. And because it sees things in infrared, it can sense heat thousands and thousands of years old, which is totally amazing. But why I'm sharing that is that if you put two telescopes together, or two people together, and one is looking through the eyes of infrared and the other one is looking through the eyes of our vision, they're going to come back with two different ideas about what the world looks like and what the world is made up of. And so one of the things that I think is really important to get us started today in our talk is that we suspend, if we can, the ideas or the beliefs that we have in lieu of curiosity. And that what we need to do, if we can, is to be more curious about other points of view, other ideas, that are different from our own, rather than just eliminate them or not even see them.
Exactly. And we all develop beliefs, and unfortunately, we develop them from childhood on, right from birth on, actually. Um, if you had the bad fortune of having caregivers who are not very responsive to your needs when you cried, you might even start the belief that your needs are not important to others. And you might even decide somewhere along the line that you are unlovable because the people that are supposed to be loving you apparently are not. So you must be unlovable. We tend to blame ourselves as children. If you're not popular with the kids at school, you may decide and form a belief that you're not likable. And so these beliefs start very early, and unfortunately, they come to be formed at a time when you in fact, are powerless. You are powerless. You're little. You don't have control over what happens to your life and how your needs get met. So we start forming these beliefs very early. They do attract to us just what we believe. And so our challenge when we come into a place of wanting to examine our lives and how we got to where we are and how we can improve it is to identify what is it that we believe. You don't even have to get to where you got the idea. You can just know, well, and if you don't know what it is, you look at your life like in a mirror and say, well, I'm experiencing this, therefore I must believe such and such. For example, if you're struggling with not enough finances, not enough money to support yourself or whatever, you say, gosh, I must believe in that I don't deserve, or I have a lack consciousness, that I don't have enough to meet my needs. So we have to take responsibility, and that's a very hard thing to do, because human beings, their first order of defense is to blame. That's what we do, because it hurts too much to blame ourselves. So we always point the finger out at first. We blame our parents. Poor parents put up with so much blame and anybody else other than us. But when we really grow up, we realize, oh no, I have to take that lens inward and examine what I believe. And however I got that belief, I need to change it. You want to talk more about beliefs before I go into how we change it?
Yeah, I do. I want to give a personal story, a personal experience. Growing up at a very early age, we weren't a large family at an early age, because I was number two, so there was going to be 5 more kids that were going to. But as the family grew, 2 things happened. There was less room for each of us. Eventually, there was no room for any of us because we had to keep moving, because we didn't have enough money to stay wherever we were staying. And so we would pack up in the middle of the night, and sometimes we would live in a hotel room, and sometimes we would live in an apartment. But I learned fairly early on, I came to believe that there was no room for me. And so that's a belief. Now, fast forward 15 years later, 20 years later or whatever, and in order to become a therapist, I had to be in therapy. And I talked to the therapist about this notion, and I said, I'm always uncomfortable in a restaurant, you see, because when I go into a restaurant, I don't feel like I belong. And so she said, well, I want you to find a restaurant, and I want you to go in and talk to whoever you can and tell them, this is the restaurant you've selected that's going to be your restaurant. You see, what I couldn't believe was that people would go to the restaurant, have a cup of coffee, and read the paper. I went in the restaurant, tried not to take up too much time or too much space, had my coffee as quickly as possible to get out because it wasn't my restaurant. That difference was significant, because eventually what happened as a result of that is that when I would come in, people would say hello to me. I didn't realize that because I didn't think it was my restaurant that no one would speak to me. It wasn't until that I made it my restaurant and it made it a conversation that everybody came to recognize and know me. So then I began doing that in every other area of my life. I was young, which means that I paid my bills at the very last minute because I wanted to keep all the money I was making, which wasn't much, in my pocket rather than in somebody else's pocket. And then sometimes I would be late, and then that would be frustrating, but I would make it, and I would resent having to pay the payment that I made, whatever it was, because I wanted to hold on to the money. And then I decided that I had enough to share, enough to spare, but I decided something different too. And this is where our beliefs begin to filter in. I never really believed that I was given credit, or that the credit I was given to me because I deserved it. I believed somehow I just got it and I was lucky. So when I believed that I earned it, then I started going to every single place that I had to pay bills in person to meet the people I owed money to and say thank you. The car dealership, the bank, the gas and electric company. I wrote them a letter and said thank you for the power that I get from them every month. You wouldn't believe the change in the relationships that took place. And I would go into the bank, and the bank owner, the manager, all the tellers would all say hi to me. I didn't have to pay my bills in person, but I needed to have a relationship with the world I was dealing with rather than insulating or isolating myself and then having the unspoken word, which is I can't trust other people, or I can't trust the world, or I can't trust the industry. And so what I discovered is you need to meet this if you can and recognize it and move in with curiosity and move in with interest. And that can change your beliefs. So I pay my bills now, and I'm delighted that I pay my bills. I'm delighted that I have what I have to be able to pay them with. But that's a shift away from it. And we talked about this some weeks back when I talked about I had to change this notion of I got to go to work till I get to go to work. I got to go to work means I'm a victim of an idea. I'm a victim of the thinking that says you're not in charge of you, somebody else or something else is. When I said I get to go to work, and I said I'm in charge of this, the belief that I'm in charge of going to work is very different than the belief that I'm not in charge of that, which means I've got nothing when I get to work either that I'm in charge of. And so that belief system sort of eclipses everything else. Imagine you go to work and you can't wait to get there because there's so many wonderful people that you get a chance to say hello to. Or imagine you got to go to work one more day and you can't stand it. And how is that different? So we get to create how that's different. So these beliefs, without meaning to, filter everything we do, and we don't realize it. And as Judith was saying, they happen at a very early age, such an early age that we don't realize it gets embedded. I didn't know that I would be afraid of restaurants because I didn't have a space and because I didn't deserve one. I didn't know I believed that. In fact, I would have said that's absolutely crazy. I'm much smarter than that.
Yeah, so you've heard of things like, oh, she looks through life with rose-colored glasses. That's a filter. That's a filter, rose-colored, meaning she expects to see good things, find nice people, have everything turn out okay, and it tends to happen. So you could also walk through life with dark-colored glasses, expecting bad things to happen, expecting what?
Dark things.
Dark things to happen. Have you know, people steal from you, cheat, hurt you, things like that. So. And we never feel responsible. Like I say, we always want to blame. We don't want to take responsibility. But when you come into this teaching, the science of manifestation, the science of using your mind, we believe that your mind connects with the mind of God. And God always says, right, you are, my beloved. Whatever you say, right, you are. And so we have beliefs in very important areas. We have beliefs in how lovable you think you are, how much you belong, what you deserve in life, what your abilities are. And it's largely what other people tell you. What other people tell you, oh, you're good at this or you're good at that. You go, oh, I am. And in fact, you may be good at a lot of other things, but you just haven't heard it. And so you don't believe it. What you deserve. That is very, very important. What do you think you deserve? Do you deserve to be treated well and with respect and kindness and love? So if you're not experiencing that, you might check, well, what do I believe about that? And if you were left alone a lot, you might believe that nobody cares about you and you're not important, because that's the way it seems to you as a child, if that happens. So like Bob decided there's no room for him. And it's interesting when we've lived in a lot of different homes because we've traveled to so many different places. And Bob's always comfortable in a small space, and I'm always comfortable in a big house because when I grew up, my father built our homes, and we always lived in homes bigger than our neighbors. So I like big spaces, big cars. He likes little cars, and he likes little spaces. He's comfortable with that. I have a friend who's that way too. She likes little spaces. So believe it or not, that has a lot to do with how we grew up. So, and that might be just right for you and you don't have to change anything, or you might want to change what you believe you deserve.
And every filter that may have a negative side, which I shared the negative side of mine, which is I didn't feel like I belonged. The positive side of that filter was because I didn't belong, I was a better observer than many people who felt they belonged, who didn't need to observe. And so
Yeah,
one of the
that's
things
true.
that helped
That's
me,
a gift.
it was a gift in that I became a far better observer of conditions and people and circumstances and situations than I would have been had I felt I belonged. And so you could say, I can learn from any experience I have. I can learn from any of my filters, but I need to know they're there. I also need to know when I can take that down.
Mhm.
As a therapist and a crisis worker, as I've been for a good deal of my life, it's really important to be a good observer. It's really important not to belong, but to be on the outside looking in to see what does belong and what can be done and how things can operate. But in a relationship, that's not so good. Albert Shefflin, who was a famous psychiatrist who spent a great deal of time studying the nonverbal behavior, he was a specialist in nonverbal behavior, researched it all over the planet, looking for common behaviors that all humans had. So he comes to the university where I worked, and he stood in front of the podium and he began talking, and nobody gave him any attention. And then somehow he seemed to grow bigger, and he raised his voice a little bit and moved his hands a little bit, and he had the attention of all of the people in the room. And he said, what I just did was I let you know that I was here. Before that, I wasn't really here.
Mm.
Really, really huge. So he presented himself in a way to say, I'm not really here. And everybody responded to that. Another person might have done the exact same thing and wondered, why aren't I getting any response? Why aren't I getting any respect? But here's the more interesting part. This is a man who spent most of his life studying nonverbal behavior. And I found out he had 9 marriages.
9. Well, he was a busy boy.
Yeah. So there were some filters. I don't know what they were, and I think if we talked to any of his wives, I would like to have asked them, was he very observant? Did he listen to you?
Right,
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean that when you have a filter, it doesn't mean it's a good or bad thing. And that's what I really want to get to. It just means you see the world through that. And when you know what you're looking through, you can see what you're seeing, and sometimes why you don't see more.
Mhm. Exactly.
I have a friend of mine who met a very beautiful woman, and he said, she's the one. I said, based on what? He said, she's beautiful. I said, okay. What else does she have that you think you might like? She's beautiful. How could she be anything other than kind and wonderful? Because she's beautiful. I said, where's she from? She's Russian. Okay, that's good, I think. And he said, and I said, is she a citizen? No. Does she want to get married? Absolutely. I said, okay, there may be some other agendas here. No, she's beautiful. When you see the world through that filter, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I would be awful for him to see this beautiful Russian woman who wants to be married and not notice her. I mean, she was beautiful. I saw the picture and I said, my God, she is beautiful. She must be trustworthy. But so these filters automatically impose themselves in many other arenas that we're not aware of. And when they do that, that can shut us down, open us up, and make us vulnerable to situations that we don't really want to be in. Anyway, that relationship didn't last very long because he realized that she just wanted to get married. An American, that is.
So one of our most important filters is what we believe about God. It is so crucial, so important. Because if you were raised with any ideas about that God is a punishing God, or, it's like Santa Claus, you're either going to get rewarded or punished, those can really interfere with having a trusting, close, optimistic view of your relationship with the Creator. And you've all heard that God is within us as well as without of us. But unless you believe that God is for you, not against you, that you can really keep yourself from experiencing your highest and best here.
You want to be careful that you don't have a God that has you believe that you're unsafe, because if you make a single mistake, it's over for you. I mean, that's living in fear, not living in a spiritual awareness, and not living a full life. And it's easy to do that. And the nice thing about knowing what's right and wrong is that theoretically, if right were an absolute, you just know what to do and you'd always be right. But it's not an absolute. Conditions and context have everything to do with what's right and what's not right. We have to be willing to be curious enough to look at all of the different parts of that, to ask ourselves, is this right for me? And am I really safe or not?
Right. So if you really want to examine this, as I say, if you want to look at yourself, and these are exercises that I've done in class, I've taught in classes, you take a look at your life, and there are 5 areas you need to look at. Number 1, what do I believe about God? What do I believe about love and my right and that natural state to be loved? What do I believe about money and finances and what I deserve in that area? What do I hope you can write this fast.
Or
What
watch
do
this
I
again.
believe, or watch it again? What do I believe about my talents, my creativity, my ability to express myself in the world? That's all one area, your creativity and abilities. And what do I believe about health and my health?
Mhm.
So we really need to look at, examine, find out sometimes consciously what our beliefs are. And then you create affirmations which affirm that. Affirmations are positive statements that say, I am, or I have. And you say those enough times until you change your mind. A lot of people say, well, how in the world can I change mine? But I believe it. How can I
Mhm.
change it? Well, have you ever changed your mind? I change mine every day, several times a day. Of course, you can change what you believe. You might need to use affirmations regularly, over and over. Remind yourself every time a fear comes up or something, use an affirmation.
Yeah.
Remind yourself of the truth of your connection to
And where
God.
is the evidence that you're not worthy, not good enough, or not deserving of anything? And is that evidence true? I love Byron Katie. One of the questions that she asked through her process of unfolding the truth about any particular situation is it true? Is there any empirical evidence, anything to support that that's true? We believe a lot of things that if we were to examine them, we would have to say, no, I don't think that's true. It feels like it is, but it's not
And
true.
then the next question is, are you absolutely certain it's true?
Yeah, yeah.
Because we'll say, well, of course it's true. And yeah, but really, I mean,
It's true because I believe it.
empirically, is it absolutely true? And you often end up saying, well, I'm not sure. I don't know for sure that it is. So
Judith has copious notes. Or just notes.
so the imperative to know that your belief systems are working for you is that you're happy. You're happy with your life. You're happy the situation. And it is important for you to be happy, to take care of your own health.
Mhm.
And I've certainly demonstrated that to myself in the past few years, because I had some things that were making me unhappy with the loved ones' challenges with health. And lo and behold, then I come down with health challenges that I've never had.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I thought, boom, well, if I needed proof of that, I sure got it. And so it's really imperative that we are happy. Even if nothing's ever perfect in our circumstances. There are always things that we want. I hope you have things that you want to be, do, or have, or experience yet, because that's your reason for being here. But are you happy in the process? It's really, really important, because what we've seen is if you're not happy, life will be happy to take you out.
Mhm.
You don't need to be here if you're going to be miserable the whole time. And so when people,
Well, unless your mission is to make other people,
that's true
then you
too.
need to be here to fulfill your task. Right?
That's true too. But so often we see that people will stay around on the
Yeah.
earth plane as long as they have a sense of purpose, something they want to be here for, to do. And when they decide they don't stick around. Life is happy to take you out.
The last thing I want to add to that before we move on to actually closing is that since we're all here for a different reason, we're all here to accomplish different things, then what is valuable to one person that would seem valuable to another may not be. And the example I want to give is that Einstein is a good example of someone whose life was dedicated to science. If you looked at the way he was able to manage a relationship, it was pretty poor. If you look at the way a number of really famous people have managed their relationships, they have lamented, and then finally those of that were able to have come back to, I think my purpose wasn't to do what other people do. My purpose was to do this instead. And other people would reject that. Women have had to deal with that for a very long time. Your purpose here is to have babies. Well, actually, that is just one possibility, but it's not necessarily everyone's purpose. It can be your purpose. And if it is, please have one. Not mine necessarily, but have one or two. And more than two, I don't want to because it's too noisy.
Five or
But
seven.
so it doesn't have you done. But I think what is really, really important is that when you are not getting the approval that you need from other people that you'd like to get, and you're not giving yourself the approval that you need to, what do you need to change? Or maybe not change out there, but change in here in terms of, but that's not what I'm here for, or that's not my mission. And I'm trying to accomplish different things than other people might see or understand. I was thinking that the most intimate relationship you're going to have is with yourself. And I think allowing yourself to have an intimate understanding of your own thinking and your own beliefs is really, really critical. And I would assert that if you can't have that kind of understanding of yourself, that kind of intimacy with yourself, you're probably not going to have it with anyone else either.
Well said. Shall we end with an affirmative prayer?
I like it.
Okay. So let's all go within and know that the truth of our being is that we are connected integrally always with the one source of life, the one power of life that we call Lord, Master, God, Creator, Mother, Father, God. We call it by many names, but we know that it is the originator of life, our life, and we are one with it eternally. We know that we all have beliefs and that these beliefs shape and create our experience. So we choose to examine our beliefs, change them if we choose to, and take responsibility for the life that we have created. We know that we can always choose again, and we give thanks for that knowing. We release, and together we say,
And so it
and
is.
so it is.
Beautifully done. Beautifully. That's worth going back and listening to a second time.
Thank you so much. So we are going to now share a screen with you. And what we're doing with the screen is reminding you, let's see, that says share. Golly, there's a lot going on here. Okay, this is a picture of our website. And if you go to that website, which I can't even see the address here on it,
Can you scroll it?
but it's cslpalmbeaches.org. CSL Palm Beaches. There it is. No, that's the title of it.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's the website, cslpalmbeaches.org. There it is, right there. Little tiny letters. And if you go to that site, this button on the front page is ways to donate. And when you click on that, you get different ways that you may donate to our Center for Spiritual Living of the Palm Beaches. It also has the Zoom link for our Sundays. If you ever can't find your email, you can just go here and click on that link. So we like to say this affirmation, and it's a prosperity affirmation. That's not all showing. What in the world happened to it? There it is. So if you would like to say it on your end, and we'll say it on our end. My investment today is made with the full realization that God is the source of my supply and returns it to me enriched and multiplied. And so it is. So now I'm going to end in that screen, and I'm not seeing it.